Are you an adult wondering whether you've got ADHD? Here are 15 traits that you might be able to relate to. I'm Cath, I'm 40, and this year I was diagnosed with combined type ADHD, which is a combination of both inattentive and hyperactive ADHD. I'm going to talk about 15 traits of ADHD that I personally experience, but also that other ADHDers experience. This is not medical advice. I am not a medical professional, and if you do believe you've got ADHD, then please speak to your GP about it. So, trait number 1 is procrastination. ADHD brings a lot of procrastination for people, and it's not in this. Every single person procrastinates. Every person on the planet procrastinates at times, but for ADHDers, we procrastinate on another level. And it might be that we have procrastinated on doing something for hours at a time or almost for the whole day. And we know we need to do that thing. There's a lot of shame attached to it. We are annoyed with ourselves that we are not doing that thing, but for some reason we keep procrastinating. So it might be that you have something really important to do, let's say an important phone call to make, and you procrastinate on it for hours. And you wait until the business is going to close, for example. If you had to phone an office, for example, and that was going to close at 5 o'clock, you might procrastinate all day, and then when it gets to 4:30, you might think, oh, I need to do it now. And it's that kind of adrenaline, that last minute feeling that makes you do it. There is a lot of shame attached, and I'm speaking for myself, and I know other ADHDers feel the same. There's a lot of shame attached when we procrastinate, and it's not about being lazy. Sometimes, for example, I will procrastinate on, I find tidying up really difficult. I find cleaning easy, but in order to clean, you have to tidy first. So I procrastinate on tidying by doing something else. But when I've got an important phone call to make, or some kind of, say, important paperwork to fill in that is going to take a lot of mental energy, or it might take me a long time, I will procrastinate on filling in that form by cleaning. And the cleaning then feels easy. It's quite strange how it works, but we procrastinate in different ways. It's not just about, sometimes, yeah, it is about getting stuck scrolling on your phone, of course. Everyone does that at times. Sometimes ADHDers get stuck in that for hours, or watching something on TV, but a lot of the time we're actually doing something productive to procrastinate on doing something else. Trait number 2 is time blindness. In ADHD brains, the prefrontal cortex is wired differently than a neurotypical brain, and it affects our executive functioning skills. So a lot of ADHDers are not able to process time. We can obviously tell the time, but we are not able to understand how much time has passed. It's like we can't feel time. So we might, in my case, I think that something will take me 1 minute or 2 minutes, when in reality it might take me 10 minutes or 5 minutes. There are plenty of times when I have sat down in my car, I've pulled up on the drive in my car, I have thought, I'm just going to check my emails for a minute, and then it's an hour later and I'm researching something random and I haven't noticed that an hour has passed. It doesn't feel like an hour, and I think it's been like 10 minutes. That happens quite often. As a result of not being able to process time, ADHDers are often late for things, or way too early. I have got a reputation for being late, and I'm not proud of that. And it's never because I can't be bothered. It's never because I'm just sat there doing nothing. It's because my brain thinks, okay, I need to leave at this time, but I'll just quickly unload the dishwasher, or I'll just quickly send this email. And I underestimate how much time it takes to do those things, and as a result end up being late. So it can happen the other way around. For example, like if it's something that you know you've really got to be on time for. Like, say it was something like a really, really, like a life-changing appointment or something like that. Quite often ADHDers will be so worried about it that we'll end up being way too early for it. It's very rare that we're just on time or 1 minute early. We're either usually late or way too early. Trait number 3 is disorganisation. As I mentioned earlier, the prefrontal cortex in our brain is wired differently, and it affects our executive functioning, which affects our organising skills. A lot of ADHDers are not able to prioritise tasks. We often feel chaotic and struggle with keeping things tidy, even though we really want to be tidy. Again, it does not come down to laziness. I am quite a disorganised person, and I have managed to teach myself some skills to become organised in certain areas. There are still others I'm working on, but as a whole, we find it very difficult to be organised, even no matter how much we want to be organised. So that can result in being messy. It can result in missing appointments, forgetting to set alarms. It can result in not writing things down that are important and then completely forgetting about them. So being disorganised is a common ADHD trait. When I think back to when I was young, my room was always a mess, to the point where often you couldn't walk on the floor. And it is quite embarrassing to say that in public, but that's just the way it was. I had a lot on my mind, and tidying my room, I struggled with it so much. I found it's almost like I didn't know where, and even now, even when I know things have a home, it's almost like I don't know where to put them, even though sometimes, if it's very obvious, yeah, I can put them away. If it's a bit less obvious, my brain just panics. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. Trait number 4 is fidgeting. Now, not all ADHDers will experience fidgeting, and I think it depends on the type of ADHD you've been diagnosed with, or the type of ADHD you would be diagnosed with. So because I've got combined type, I've got the elements of the hyperactivity. You'll probably notice I talk with my hands a lot, and I do fidget a lot. So when I'm stressed, I often will fidget with my hands. When I'm learning, I fidget with my hands, and even things like twiddling a pen, or I do things like this with my fingers. And trait number 5 is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. As ADHDers, we are often sensitive to the perceived or real rejection of others. So for example, if someone was acting a bit off towards you and you didn't think you'd done anything wrong, a lot of neurotypical people could just easily brush that off and think, I've done nothing, it's fine, if they're in a mood, they're in a mood, that's fine. For ADHDers and autistic people as well, we take it that much more personally. We think, well, what have I done? Why are they being like that with me? Have I done something wrong? Even if we rationally know we've done nothing wrong. Now, rejection sensitivity can come and go at times, and I, for example, have worked a lot on my mindset, so I don't experience this near as much now as I used to when I was growing up. When I was little, I used to think that I was very sensitive to facial expressions, tones of voices, and I used to think that my teachers hated me if they spoke to me with a certain tone of voice, or I used to think that my friends didn't like me anymore, or that my friends' parents didn't like me, and just based on certain like micro expressions that I would pick up on, or tones of voices. As an adult now, like I've said, I've worked on my mindset, and now I am not as sensitive to that, but that is only because I've worked on my mindset. Even as an adult, before I worked on my mindset, I was still very sensitive to rejection or perceived rejection. Number 6 is emotional dysregulation. We as ADHDers, experience our emotions very intensely. So whereas a neurotypical person may experience emotions like, and then the occasional like major up and down, most of the time they're quite, on a gentle wavelength with emotions. As ADHDers, we're kind of more like up and down, not constantly, but when we're happy, we're really happy, and when we're sad, we're really sad, and when we're angry, we're really angry. But not only that, we feel deeply, which means we can get hurt at a much deeper level, which is one of the negatives, I suppose. But also we hold on to our emotions for so much longer. So for example, in a disagreement with someone, if both parties are angry and you've resolved the situation, I experienced this with my husband. So if we've disagreed and we're both angry and we sort out whatever it is that's been bothering us, he can let go of his anger quickly. I hold on to my anger for longer, and it's not in a petty way. It's not because I want to, it's because my system just can't let it go quickly. I can rationally I can say to him, everything, this is, it's fine, but I still feel angry and I need time to let that come down. So it happens with so many things. If I'm excited, I am so excited like a little kid. If I'm down, I'm really, really down. And I know other ADHDers experience that too. So that emotional dysregulation can be one of the really challenging, it's all challenging of course, but that can affect, because it affects at such a deep emotional level, it massively impacts the lives of ADHDers. Trait number 7 is impulsivity and hyperactivity. I've combined these two, and this might be seen more in those with hyperactive type ADHD or combined type, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist in inattentive type ADHD, because that not being able to switch your brain off, that is experienced with most ADHDers, if not all, that can be classed as hyperactivity, like hyperactivity in the brain. So impulsiveness, I have started, not just me, obviously, other ADHDers, loads of other ADHDers have done this too, started things and not finished them, starting new hobbies, starting new businesses. How many jobs have you had? I've had so many jobs and I've worked hard in all of them, but if they weren't my passion, I was quite quick to realise it and move on. So when it comes to making decisions, sudden decisions that seem drastic, that's actually easier than making normal everyday decisions. Trait number 8 is losing focus, and often ADHDers will lose focus on things they're bored with, things they've heard before. Like for example, if someone is telling the same story that they've already told, you may notice an ADHD, their eyes are looking off in another direction. And it's not about being rude, it's about their brain is not being stimulated by that conversation because they've already heard it, and they're trying to concentrate on it, but their brain is losing focus. So trait number 9 is hyperfocus. Contrary to popular belief, ADHDers do not lack attention in everything. We can hyperfocus on things that we're interested in, and we can hyperfocus that much to the point where fully immersed in it, we learn absolutely everything about it, and we can forget to eat because we're so focused on it. So hyperfocus is commonly seen with ADHD, and it kind of ties in with procrastination, because when we're interested in something, it's so hard to come away from that, to move on to the next thing. So we might be doing something we're interested in, but then we've got something that we need to do, but we just can't get away from that hyper-focus. Trait number 10 is forgetfulness. We can be talking on our phone and looking for our phone. We can forget words mid-sentence. We can forget people's names. We can forget what everyday items are called. and I'm forgetting what I'm saying now. We can forget, we can forget stuff very easily. And we often, here's another thing that I do, and I know other ADHDers do this, we will put something in a safe place to keep it safe and then forget where the safe place is. And we can forget things even exist if it's not in front of us. So like, for example, if I get an important letter that needs dealing with, something, maybe I need to make an appointment, I have to keep that letter somewhere where I can see it every day until I've dealt with it, because we know I'm going to procrastinate on it. So it's got to be on the dining table, for example. If I put it away, I will not see that letter again for years. Trait number 11 is overthinking. We've already thought it. Whatever you're thinking now, we have already thought it. We often plan conversations in our head. We often think of scenarios, and if they happen, this is what we would do in this scenario, this is what we would do in this scenario. And again, it's not something that we do on purpose. It's not something that we want to do. It's very tiring to be an overthinker, but we overthink. And every single situation that happens, our brain's already decided what it's going to do. Trait number 12 is sensory issues. Now, this could tie in with autism as well, because of course autistic people also have sensory issues. I have got so many sensory issues, it's unbelievable. And again, I am awaiting an autism assessment, so maybe some of mine could be autism related, I don't know. For example, I'm sensitive to flashing lights, to artificial coloured lights. For example, on our Christmas tree, the lights have got to be warm white and they can't flash, because the flashing lights make me feel angry, they make me feel sick, and they'll give me a headache. I know a lot of other ADHDers and autistic people feel the same about lights. Too many people talking at once, that's very stressful. Too many noises at once. If somebody's watching the telly, another person's listening to a video on their phone, someone else is talking, that's too much. Chemical smells, any strong smells, fabrics on your clothes, labels in clothes. I can't wear high necklines, can't wear necklaces. Anything that's around my throat just feels uncomfortable. I can't wear bracelets or watches. And a lot of other ADHDers and autistic people are the same, but we all have different sensory issues. So something that I am sensitive to, you might not be. Trait number 13 is feeling overwhelmed. I feel like as an ADHDer, we are constantly overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed because we procrastinate a lot, and therefore we don't get as many things done as we hope to. Sometimes though, we are obviously like a machine and we can get things done quickly, but if it's at the last minute, we go off track as well, as you might be able to notice. So we feel overwhelmed, we think a lot, we overthink everything, we are overwhelmed by our surroundings, by sensory issues, by the things we need to do, by the fact that often we can't process time. So as a result, sometimes it feels like time's going too fast, or you've not got enough time to do all the things you need to do. So it kind of all feeds into each other and causes a lot of overwhelm. Trait number 14 is addiction. And it's a sad fact that ADHDers are more likely to experience addiction and are more likely to have addictive personalities. I myself have got my own past experience with alcohol addiction, which I will talk about in a future video, but we are so much more likely to become addicted to things, partly because of the dopamine associated with it. So for example, as we are not able to regulate our dopamine due to the way our brains are wired, sometimes we seek exciting things and things that are going to give us that dopamine boost. Addiction is one of them. Like when, for example, people can become addicted to drugs, alcohol, and there's that initial dopamine boost. That is not always the reason why ADHDers or anyone becomes addicted. It's not always because of the dopamine, but the dopamine often plays a big factor in that. For example, we might even become addicted to healthy things, like things that are seen as healthy, like going to the gym or eating healthy. Another one for me, in the past, I was addicted to going to the gym. I am now addicted to eating healthy and a kind of healthy lifestyle. So that might not be seen as a negative, but when it becomes something that you feel like you have to do, when it feels like a bit more compulsive, then it obviously it brings anxiety with it. So yeah, addiction is something that unfortunately a lot of ADHDers are more prone to. Trait number 15 is intuitive thinking, and I've left this one to last because it's pretty cool, I think. So basically, most of the time ADHDers know what you're going to say before you say it, and it's not necessarily about being psychic. It's about, we recognize patterns quickly. Our brain thinks a lot. It's already overthought many situations. We've heard similar conversations before, so our brain recognizes patterns from previous conversations and can quickly recognize what you're going to say way before you get to the point, or way before maybe a neurotypical gets to the point. You'll notice a lot of ADHDers talk quite fast as well. We like to get to the point with things, but we also go off track. So intuitive thinking, but also fast-paced thinking and general intuition. So, for example, I can't process time. I cannot process distance. Like if the sat-nav tells me in however many yards turn right, I don't know what that is. I can't work that out, especially while the car's moving. I don't know. I have to look at the map on the sat-nav to know where to turn. If someone tells me walk so many meters, I can't do that. I can obviously walk, I can guess, but I have no idea. But when it comes to things like parking in a small space, my intuition, whether that would be classed as intuition, but it's amazing at that. I can process how much distance by using my intuition. So I can get, my car's quite a decent sized car. It's not a small car, and I can fit it into tight parking spaces. I know where to, it comes in a lot with driving for me. I know where I can fit into with the car. I know when it's safe, but when it's safe to go, but cutting it fine at the same time, if that makes sense. So when it comes to intuition, yeah, we've got great intuition. So that was 15 traits of ADHD, and there are more traits. I just want to say to you, if you can resonate with these traits and they happen often or every day, and you think that you may have ADHD, please do speak to your GP. I am not a medical professional, and this is in no way intended to, not that it can diagnose, but it's in no way intended to diagnose ADHD. For ADHDers, we experience these traits all the time. Regularly, every day, often. Other people will experience these traits. When I say other people, neurotypical people will experience these traits, of course, in their life, but it's not in the same way as ADHDers. They will experience them maybe every now and then, or when they're feeling stressed, things like that. Whereas for us, it's kind of every day, all day, every day. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video valuable, if you found this video valuable, then please like and subscribe.